Welcome in everyone, this is Sean with MTG808 Jr. and today we are going to be looking at a standard deck that has been much requested, especially ever since Rivals of Ixalan has come out. We're going to be taking a look at Green Red Dinosaurs. Um, Now, before we jump into looking at the deck, I just want to make sure that everyone knows about our upcoming Youth Championship Scholarship Tournament this May. So if you haven't already started playing Standard Pauper and you are enrolled in K through 12 here on the island of Oahu, now is a great time to start playing Standard Pauper so that you can participate in our May scholarship tournament. First place is going to be walking away with at least $500 in scholarship, with second place getting at least $250 in scholarship. And the format is going to be Standard Pauper, which we're going to be looking at today. So, if you are a youth interested in playing Magic and you don't yet play Standard Pauper, now is the perfect time to pick it up. And on that note, we're going to be taking a look over here at Green Red Dinosaurs. There's a bunch of different ways to build dinosaurs in the current Standard Pauper metagame. We saw our second place finisher at our most recent tournament played three color dinosaurs. They were playing green, red, white dinosaurs, and they were really focusing on trying to ramp up and play a big giant 6-drop. They were playing 8 6-drops and then just a bunch of removals, some ramp spells, and just trying to max out on those 6-drops. Unfortunately, that deck played against the blue-black control deck that won the tournament twice in the tournament. They lost to it once in the Swiss rounds and then once again in the finals. And the control matchup is pretty abysmal for a ramp deck. But today we're going to be taking a look at this kind of mid-range green-red dinosaurs deck. It has some tools that are going to allow it to start attacking sooner than turn 6, but I'm still not sure how great the control matchup is going to be for this deck. But so we're going to have a link to this in the description of this video, so you can check that out if you want to see the list yourself. But in the meantime, we're going to hop on over here to our Magic Online viewing of the deck. And yeah, we've got a whole bunch of dinosaurs and some ramp spells and some removals. So let's just start with the removal. Shock. We've talked many times about Shock here on this YouTube channel, about how trading 1 mana for potentially a 2 or 3 mana creature is going to allow you to kind of maintain tempo or even get ahead on tempo, and also just being able to hit your opponent in the face for 2, especially if they're at 2 life, is going to feel real nice. So Shock is a 4 of here. Help keep the little creatures under control. If you're playing against one of those decks that's just playing 1 and 2 mana creatures, Shock is going to be your best friend. We also have 3 Lightning Strikes here. Lightning Strike is similar to Shock. 3 mana, deal 3 damage to target creature or player. You're probably going to take out a 2-drop or a 3-drop with Lightning Strike. But again, similar to Shock, you just want to be able to zap the little creatures down in the early game, and then in the late game, Lightning Strike might go to the opponent's face if they're at a low enough life total. So Shock and Lightning Strike, the 2 spells, or the 2 burn spells here in the deck. We also have 2 copies of Ornamental Courage. 1 mana, untap target creature. It gets +1/+3 until end of turn. This spell is going to be really good if you are racing your opponent, right? If you are attacking them every turn and they might block or they might not block. If they do block, then you can Ornamental Courage your guy to hopefully grow it and surprise them and make their block not as good as they thought it was going to be. But even if they don't block, when they attack you back on the next turn, you can untap your creature, make it unexpectedly large, unexpectedly untapped and able to block, and hopefully throw off some combat math there. So Ornamental Courage is going to allow this deck to race. The deck is trying to play 3, 4, 5, even 6 mana dinosaurs. So in order to catch up on tempo, you might need to start attacking, but then still make sure you can play defense. And Ornamental Courage does that really nicely. So those are kind of like the instant speed tricks in the deck. We got Shock, Lightning Strike, Ornamental Courage, and The last spell in the deck really is kind of the glue that brings the dinosaur deck together. Commune with Dinosaurs is a 1 green sorcery. Look at the top 5 cards of your library. You may reveal a dinosaur or land from among them and put them into your hand, and the rest on the bottom of your library in any order. Basically, this card is a split card. It might be a great dinosaur that's going to help you fill your curve, or it might be a land. If you have a land light hand, you can, the deck is only playing 20 lands, even though we're playing, 4, 5, and 6 drops, which is a little unusual. The deck might even want 21 lands, but I think that between Commune with Dinosaurs and Druid of the Cowl, which we'll talk about in a second, the deck can get away with a low land count. You can keep a 2-lander with a Commune with Dinosaurs and then commune into your 3rd land, and then, you should be able to draw into your 4th or 5th land by your 4th or 5th turn. So Commune with Dinosaurs, very, very nice card. It's a dinosaur when you need it to be a dinosaur. It's a land when you need it to be a land. It just gives the deck a lot of versatility. Alright, so that's the spells in the deck. The rest of the cards in the deck are either dinosaurs or cards that play real nicely with dinosaurs. Creatures, specifically, that play real nicely with dinosaurs. So Druid of the Cowl, which we mentioned earlier, is a 2-mana 1/3. Not the greatest body. It might block reasonably well, but the main reason that it's in the deck is because you can tap it to make a green mana, right? So you can play this guy on turn 2, and then on turn 3, you can play your 3rd land, tap your 3 lands, and tap Druid of the Cowl, and play one of your 4-drops in the deck, right? It allows you to ramp into a 4-drop and play it earlier than you would normally, right? So when in Magic, when we use the term ramp, it means that you're playing creatures ahead of curve, right? You usually can't play 4-mana creatures until turn 4 unless you have a ramp spell. So Druid of the Cowl, it can block if you need it to. It can even attack if you need it to, but the main reason it's in the deck is to help you play your 4, 5, and 6-drop cards earlier. The other 2-drop here in the deck is, how do you say this? Tilonali's Night. So it's a 2-mana 2/2, and when it attacks, if you control a dinosaur, it becomes a 3/3 until end of turn. So this guy if you play it on turn 2 and then you play a dinosaur on turn 3, you're gonna have a 3/3 attacking. This deck is trying to kill the opponent with damage, so being able to start attacking on turn 3 is really nice, and a 2-mana 3/3 when it's attacking is a little bit larger than most 2-mana creatures, so you get to play a little ahead of the curve with this guy. So that's the 2-drop creatures. Moving on to the 3-drop creatures, we have 4 Frilled Death Spitter. This is a new addition from Rivals of Ixalan. 1 red, 2 colorless, 3/2, and it has the Enrage ability. Enrage says whenever this creature is dealt damage, it deals 2 damage to target opponent. So, it's a 3-mana 3/2. It might trade with something. It might just hit them in the face a couple times, and then before trading with something. If it does trade with something in combat, it's probably going to be taking combat damage, which means that you're going to get the Enrage trigger, right? So if you play this on turn 3, you either block with it or attack with it, it takes some damage, you trigger Enrage, you're going to be dealing 2 damage to your opponent, right? So this guy is really good at pushing through damage. His green counterpart is, still good, but since this is sort of an aggro deck, we're only playing 2 of this guy as opposed to 4 of the Frilled Death Spitter. This is 1 green and 2 colorless for a 3/2. Enrage, whenever Ravenous Daggertooth is dealt damage, you gain 2 life, right? So you're going to get a little bit of value out of this guy when he trades, or you might just be able to attack through your opponent with them. So we're only playing 6 3-drops because ideally we want to be skipping 3-drop slot with Druid of the Cowl. Or I guess even with Druid of the Cowl, we might play a 3-drop on turn 4 and then drop a Shock or an Ornamental Courage. Ornamental Courage actually goes really nicely with Frilled Death Spitter and Ravenous Daggertooth because giving +3 defense means that it's probably going to live if you cast Ornamental Courage on it, which means that you'll get to trigger Enrage and it'll still stick around, so you might be able to trigger Enrage again. So that's the 3-mana creatures. Really just reinforcing this idea that we want to be attacking. We want our creatures, these guys, they might end up trading with a 2-drop sometimes, but they'll trade with a 2-drop and trigger Enrage. so you get a little bit of value. Moving up the curve, we've got 4 Thrash of Raptors. It's a 4 mana 3/3, which is, you know, not the greatest body, but it says as long as you control another dinosaur, Thrash of Raptors gets +2/+0 and has trample, right? So as long as you have another dinosaur, this guy is going to be a 5/3 trample, right? And that's huge for a 4 mana creature. So this guy, you know, it's probably gonna get blocked and traded with the first time you attack with it, but since it has trample, you're going to be able to push through some damage with it. The other 4-drop that we have in the deck is a 4 mana 2/4. This one is not a dinosaur, but it says dinosaur spells you cast cost 2 less to cast. This is also a new addition from Rivals of Ixalan. And this guy is gonna hopefully allow you to have some really insane turns. If you go turn 2 Druid of the Cowl, turn 3 Knight of the Stampede, on turn 4 you can have 4 mana 5 with the Druid of the Cowl, and you can play, like, you know, a whole bunch of 3-drops that cost 2 less, right? Or you can play a 4-drop and 2 3-drops, or a 5-drop, right, and 2 3-drops. So this guy kind of lets you dump your hand into play instead of trying to ramp into one big giant dinosaur. This deck is trying to take advantage of Knight of the Stampede and letting you just unload your hand all at once. We're only playing 3 Knight of the Stampede because if you don't play it on turn 4, it's not as good. But if you do play it on curve, it's going to be one of the best draws that you can have in the deck. Moving up the curve, here we've got 4 5 mana Dinosaurs, Stampeding Horncrest. This is also a new addition from Rivals of Ixalan. I'm not sure how good this dinosaur is going to be, but I think it's worth testing out. It's a 5 mana 4/4, has haste as long as you control another dinosaur, right? So if you play this guy and you have another dinosaur in play, you can immediately attack with it, and a 4 powered attacker with haste really might just turn a race around, right? If you play your Thrash of Raptors on turn 4, and then you play your Stampeding Horncrest on turn 5, you're going to be attacking with a 5/3 trample and a 4/4 haste, right, on turn 5. Possibly even on turn 4 if you play Druid of the Cowl on turn 2. So this guy really allows us to be aggressive, and the other options that the dinosaur deck has on turn 5 are just not that exciting. So I think this is the best 5 mana dinosaur in these colors. I could be wrong about that, though, but I think it's worth trying out. Lastly, here at the top of the curve, we've got good old Colossal Dread Maw. I'm only playing 2 copies because, again, we're only playing 20 lands, even though we do have these ways to kind of cheat on mana. We don't want to have too many of these stuck in our hand, right? It'll be nice to draw this, play it, try to close out a game, but I think that making sure that we're playing a creature as we move up the curve is going to be more important when it comes to making sure that we win games, right? Having a big 6 mana guy might be awesome, but if we have multiples stuck in our hand and we have to skip our turn 5 and then play a turn 6, we might be too far behind for the second one to even matter. So we're only playing 2. Could be wrong. You might want to play more. But again, if you do, you probably want to play more than 20 lands. So, this is a build of the deck that's trying to be kind of a mid-range aggressive deck, right? Use its good 3, 4, 5, even 6 mana creatures to push damage through. And I think that this deck can hold its own against what's running around in the format. Especially when we consider the sideboard. So, moving on to the sideboard, we have got 4 Naturalize, right? If you've been following the channel at all, you know that the Hone Kopesh and Inventor's Goggles decks are very, very powerful. Naturalize is one of the best answers that you can have for them, right? Instant speed, you can kill an equipment that's on a creature in the middle of combat, shrinking their guy. Very, very powerful card. So we for sure want the full 4 Naturalizes. We got the 4th Lightning Strike in here, just because Lightning Strike is such a good card. If they have lots of 3 toughness creatures, Lightning Strike can come in. If you just want to have more burn to go to the face, Lightning Strike is good at that too. We have the 3rd Ornamental Courage in the deck. As I mentioned, Ornamental Courage is really good when you're racing your opponent, right? If you need to be attacking and defending at the same time, then Ornamental Courage is going to be exactly the card that you need. So if you're playing against someone that you think that situation might come up against, you can side in an additional Ornamental Courage. 2 Destructive Tamperings. Again, the Destroy Target Artifact is not really the reason that this is in the sideboard. It's the second ability, creatures without flying can't block this turn, right? If you're expecting your opponent to just kind of play a bunch of blockers and you're going to be staring at each other over the course of the game, building up your giant boards, Destructive Tampering is going to let you just break that board state wide open and come in for the killing blow. We only have 2 in the sideboard because ideally when you cast this card, you're going to be winning the game that turn, so we don't want to draw multiples. We've also got Dual Shot. There are a bunch of 1 toughness creatures out there, especially in the aggro decks. So Dual Shot can come in against them. And one kind of cool interaction of Dual Shot is that if you have your enraged dudes, you can, deal 1 damage to their 1 toughness creatures. And then if they don't have another good target, you can target your creature and trigger Enrage without killing your creature. So Dual Shot, it might be worth having more than 2 in the board. I think it's going to be a very versatile sideboard card. We've got 1 Life Goes On, right? Just very good against the aggro decks if life total matters, right? If your opponent is trying to kill you with flying creatures, Life Goes On is going to let you race that. Speaking of flying creatures, Plummet, 2 mana, destroy target creature with flying. Doesn't get much better than that when it comes to removal. So if your opponent has flying creatures, Plummet can come in. And then the last 2 cards in the sideboard are Rabid Bite. This card was actually originally printed in Shadows over Innistrad, but it is legal in Standard Pauper because it was reprinted in the starter decks. The most recent green starter deck has this as common, and so it is therefore legal in Constructed. And it's a common. So Rabid Bite. Right, target creature you control deals damage equal to its power to target creature you don't control. So the creatures don't fight. Your creature is not going to be taking damage. Your creature is just going to be hitting your opponent's creature. So Rabid Bite, just all around good removal. You want to make sure that your opponent doesn't kill your creature in response when you cast this, because then you'll just lose your Rabid Bite and you'll lose your creature. But assuming that your opponent doesn't kill your creature in response, this is very, very solid removal, right? Especially when you have 5, 4, 6 powered creatures to kind of gun everything down with. So that is my take on green-red dinosaurs. I don't think that this is the only way to build dinosaurs. I am going to be putting up 2 more dinosaur builds that I think are viable. I've built a red-white dinosaur deck. It's a little more aggressive. The curve is much lower. And then I built a green-white dinosaur deck. It's playing more 5 and 6 drops, and it plays a lot more defenders. So it's not necessarily trying to attack as much as this deck is. It's trying to just muck up the board and then kind of win with flyers or big giant creatures. But this, I think, is a good starting place for the dinosaur deck. If you're able to try it out, let me know how it goes. And, I think that this deck could probably hold its own against the standard pauper decks that we've been seeing. Yeah. So, if you like our content, if you liked this video, please make sure you give us a like. If you want to stay tuned when we publish more standard pauper content, please make sure to subscribe to the channel. And if you want to support what we do, you can become a patron at our Patreon. Here we are. At our Patreon page, you can become a supporter of what we do. And for as little as $1 a month, you can support youth magic here in Oahu and the creation of Standard Pauper content. All of the scholarship money that we're going to be giving away at our May tournament is coming directly from our patron supporters. So if you believe in what we do here, please consider becoming a patron. If you donate $10 or more, you will get your name on at least one of the plaques that we have hanging up in the local game stores here on Oahu. So make sure you give us a like, hit that subscribe button, and consider becoming a patron, and we hope to see you at our next tournament or checking out our next video. Thanks for stopping by.